So in this segment, we're going to be talking about Ed Miliband and Tory MPs absolutely savaging Jacob Rees-Mogg over lifting of the fracking ban. It's my boy Red Ed Redemption. You'd love to see it.
Let's start by taking his excuse for lifting the fracking ban, Mr. Speaker, that it will make a difference to the energy bills crisis. It won't, because gas is sold on the international market. The current Chancellor said so in February of this year, and I quote, "No amount of shale gas would be enough to lower the European price of gas." Even, Mr. Speaker, the founder of Quadrilla said the Secretary of State is wrong in an article published yesterday. So first, why doesn't he admit the truth, that anyone who knows anything about this subject says his claim that fracking will cut bills is nonsense? Next, let's come to safety.
You know, it's important to discuss because it's sold on at the international price. We're not going to increase a ton of the supply by doing fracking. That's a key problem. That's one of the reasons we're paying so much, because we pay via the international price rather than if the UK had some sort of nationalised service where the shale gas went directly to consumers somehow at a much cheaper price than whatever the normal price is for gas. So it wouldn't make a ton of difference, just like Ed Miliband said, and just as some Tory MPs have said in the past, that there's no point fracking won't solve the current energy crisis we have now.
The 2019 manifesto, on which he and every member of the party opposite stood, said this, Mr. Speaker: "We will not support fracking unless the science shows categorically that it can be done safely."
Fracking cannot be done safely. We've seen it in America, where they've got sinkholes, earthquakes, all sorts of nonsense happening over there, right? You've got the waters polluted. There was I think he's a farmer, he went up to a bunch of, fracking execs, and he told them to drink the water that was heavily polluted because of the fracking, and they refused to drink it. It was a pretty viral clip. I know Carl Kalinske covered it.
They are lifting the ban, but they can't supply the evidence, and the British Geological Survey published today certainly doesn't do it. So, in the absence of the evidence, his approach is to change the safety limits. He says in his written statement laid before this House, tolerating a higher degree of risk and disturbance appears to us to be in the national interest. I look forward to him and his colleagues explaining his charter for earthquakes to the people of Lancashire, Yorkshire, the Midlands, Sussex, Dorset, and indeed Somerset, who will be part of his dangerous experiment. Let me tell the party opposite.
I think, in my opinion, if they're going to start fracking, they should do it in Somerset. They should do it in Somerset because they're the reason why we got that clown Rees-Mogg. So that's where they should start, really.
We will hang this broken promise round their necks in every part of the country between now and the next general election. The Conservative manifesto also said, having listened to local communities, we have ruled out changes to the planning system. Does he stand by that promise? And how will he abide by the Prime Minister's commitment to local consent?
It looks like the local consent thing is gone, and there are a lot of Tory MPs mad about that, which we'll talk about in the next clip.
The truth is, he doesn't get this, that you can't escape a fossil fuels crisis by doubling down on fossil fuels. Renewables are today 9 times cheaper than gas.
Yep.
The only way to cut energy bills and have energy security is with zero-carbon homegrown power, including onshore wind and solar, which his wing of the Conservative Party hates and he continues to block.
You know, it's kind of ironic, isn't it? The Tories are so against onshore wind, but they'll go for fracking, which is infinitely worse. I wish we had more to kind of talk about this Ed Miliband clip here, but absolute facts. You know, he talked about the science, which isn't on their side. He talked about the costings, which is not on their side. He talked about the safety requirements, which is not on their side. The Tories cannot justify this actions. The only thing that's going to happen is more and more companies are going to profit off the shale gas, and the only other thing is going to happen is local people are going to get really ticked off by the increasing amounts of problems that they're going to face in their constituencies. There's a reason why it's been suspended. It's not just because Greenpeace are all over these fracking places. It's because it's just not a good idea. You got Tory backbenchers like Mark Menzies clearly furious at Rees-Mogg.
Is shown to be safe. The scare stories have been disproved time and again.
It's not true. Look at America.
The hysteria about seismic activity, I think, fails to understand that the Richter scale is a logarithmic scale. It seems to think it is a straight arithmetic scale, which of course it is not. And
here our expert on geology, Rees-Mogg.
Bringing on this supply will bring us cheaper energy, which we need. That will help our constituents. It secures our supply, which will ensure that our businesses can continue to operate whatever the weather. This is of such importance.
The thing is, even if it does increase our supply, we don't have the gas storage facilities. So all we're going to do is end up selling it to European countries that have the gas storage facilities and then buying it back in the winter for a much higher price, if they sell it back to us at all.
And it is sheer Ludditery, Mr. Speaker, that opposes it.
Well, Benson.
There's nothing Luddite about the people of Lancashire or of Fylde. And I just want to start by saying, Mr. Speaker, how disappointed I am that Parliament was not informed about this before the media, that as a local Member of Parliament I was not given the courtesy, despite having requested for 2 weeks, contacting the Honourable Member to get information via his PPM.
It's time for the Select Committee to start dragging Mogg over the coals.
Yes, I've sent letters, I've sent WhatsApps, nothing back. So,
why don't you just go to the man's office? Unless he's not in the office, why don't you just turn up to his office and be like, yo, Mogg, let's speak. You know, what's up with that? Unless he's working from home, why don't you turn up to his office?
Mr. Speaker, can we be crystal clear on one thing? The Prime Minister of the Manchester hustings, it's a matter for public record, you can find the clip.
I'm sorry, I got to throw in the the stand thing where it's like, dear Mogg, I WhatsApped you, but you're still not replying. I wanted to ask you about fracking policies. Sorry.
Crystal clear, no ifs, no buts, no caveats, that fracking would only take place in the United Kingdom where there was local consent. Crystal clear. So if the Prime Minister is to remain a woman of her word, a woman that we can believe in...
She's already U-turned because she promised there'd be no support for the energy crisis, and now she's borrowing 60 billion for it.
Which I believe she is. Can the Secretary of State outline how that local consent will be given and demonstrated in my constituency of Fylde?
And how are they going to do local consent? It's going to be like a referendum or what? How do you get the local consent?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable gentleman would have heard my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, in her speech on energy on the 8th of September, saying that we were lifting the moratorium on fracking. So I'm surprised that he feels he wasn't informed, because that has been announced. We obviously want to work with local communities, and it is really important that the companies who seek to extract shale gas come up with packages that make what they're proposing to do welcome to local...
He's shouting local consent, and I just don't know how they're going to do it. They might try and bribe the locals and just try and downplay the dangers of fracking. But boy, am I glad I do not live in a rural area, because these are typically Tory heartland areas that are going to be impacted by it, and is not going to be a fun time for them. But you vote for idiots, this is what you get, and in my opinion, it's kind of what you deserve. But then again, no one deserves to have to deal with earthquakes, sinkholes, and polluted waterways. But, you know, you keep voting for these Tories, what do you think is going to happen? You know, it's not like they don't have a choice but to vote Tory. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.